I'm Isabella Bloedorn, Teen Miss Tennessee Earth, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you, and my special guest for today is Isabella Bloedorn. Isabella, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Teen Miss Tennessee Earth, and also probably the best-looking backdrop I've ever seen. Does this just happen naturally, or do you actually put a little bit of effort into your backdrop?
I did make this little sign here. I usually change it just for different occasions. But I don't know, this is just how my room looks. I did purposely put my crown back there, and then my Christmas tree is behind me as well. But he's not fully decorated yet.
It actually looks, because of where you're sitting, it looks like the top of the Christmas tree ribbon is actually on top of your head. You look like you're wearing the ribbon on top of your head.
Yeah, that's Timothy.
But Isabella obviously has Miss Earth USA coming up very, very soon. Less than 30 days. I mean, how many days?
I'm driving down to Orlando on New Year's Eve, so it's pretty much 3 weeks exactly.
You're driving down on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty sad. Last year, I had a bunch of friends over for New Year's Eve, and we actually had a bake-off, and we don't get to do that again this year because I'm driving to Orlando.
You're going to be celebrating. Will you actually be on the road when it goes New Year's?
I'm not sure. It's an 8-hour drive. Normally, we leave just early in the morning, so we're in Orlando by a decent hour. I'm the type of person where I have such bad lungs. I have really bad asthma, and it takes like a full day for my lungs to acclimate to a different state's climate, even though I don't live that far from Florida, only 8 hours. So I always like going super early.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ralph here has said, hello, Adrian and Isabella. See you in January, Isabella. Ralph, when are you getting to the pageant? You're lucky living over in the States, you actually get to go. So Isabella, tell us how you're feeling at the moment. I've stalked you on YouTube. I know you are, at the ripe old age of 19, let's call you a seasoned pageant veteran. And you did really, really well, like in your second pageant, taking out Georgia Teen USA.
Yes.
You also know Savannah Miles, I think.
Yeah, she crowned me Georgia Teen USA.
Yeah, so following the footsteps there. How are you feeling in the lead up?
I'm actually not super nervous just because we do interviews beforehand in the Earth system. So I actually have already completed my interview. I did it on the 4th, and that's just a huge weight off your shoulders. It's definitely my favorite part of the competition, but the competition that, in my opinion, matters the most and is the most stressful. No matter how good you are at interview, it's the most stressful. So having it done already kind of makes nationals seem a lot more just like fun and not stressful. So I'm not too worried. I also wouldn't, I know a lot of people would call me a pageant veteran, but I've actually technically only competed in 5 pageants ever, which a lot of girls have competed in dozens. Yeah. But just with my pageant journey, I won Georgia Teen USA as my second one. So I went to Teen USA, that was 3. Took a long break because of COVID, and then I'm in Earth now. So I really haven't done that many pageants when you think about it.
No, I don't mean veteran as in you've done a lot. I just mean veteran as you seem to have experienced a lot of success early on. I was watching, and obviously interview is one of your strengths. You're now coaching young women with interviews. But if I can just back up a sec, because I was watching another interview you did, and you said that you did so well in your interview that it almost felt like the judges really connected with you. And I think you said that you could, I don't want to misquote you, but you could almost fall. The only way you would have lost from that point is if you fell on your face. So where did the gift of the gab come from? Like, did you always have it, or was that something that you needed to work on?
Interview is definitely something that's come naturally to me. I was a gifted student since the 1st grade. And so I've just always learned how to communicate effectively. And I actually got into writing as well as entertainment in the 6th grade. I started writing books for fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. I'm working on a book right now that I hope to get published before I graduate college. But then I also picked up YouTube. I wanted to be a YouTube star when I was in middle school. And I learned really quickly that just the normal way we speak doesn't actually effectively communicate as well as you would think. There's a type of fluctuation you need. The words you use, like I just used, but I'm actually really good at filtering those out in interviews. And I'm just a very verbose individual now because of writing. My vocabulary helps a lot, the way I speak. It's all these little things that most people don't think of and that I try to teach in my coaching. I've just learned so much from my time on social media about the way that you have to present yourself with your voice, your body language, and just the vocabulary I have helps so much. I didn't think it did until I started interviewing. Like I didn't even realize that I talked so well until I got into interviews. And my first Georgia Teen USA one, they were like, "You're 14." They're like, "Oh, why do you talk like that at 14?" They're like, "We feel like we're talking to a miss."
Yeah. Let me just, the vocabulary thing is a very interesting one because in communications, and you mentioned this about social media, it's very important to be relatable. And that's your number one sort of goal with all your social media is to be relatable. On the other hand, I found that, and communication sort of research backs this up, if you speak with really long words, you tend to lose the relatability only because some people don't know what the words mean and they tune you out. So how do you balance like having, and obviously you're intelligent, you're a gifted student, how do you balance the intelligence and the 5, 6, 7 syllable words with being relatable? Because I struggle with that, and I know a lot of other girls watching would struggle with that as well.
I found that I did actually struggle with that a lot when I was a little younger, like 14, 15. I would say certain words and people would be like, "What?" And then I
Yeah.
just had always used them. I remember my mom made fun of me the first time I said audacity because I was pretty young. And I was like, "Man, I can't believe she had the audacity to do that." And my mom's like, "Huh?" Like, what? That's a strong word. But I found that now that I'm 19, it's less of an issue. But more so whenever I'm like typing captions, stuff like that, I really do try to stick to, while they're still fun words, everyone
Yeah.
knows them, like spectacular instead of just cool. Just adds a little bit of flair, but everyone knows what spectacular means, you know?
Yeah. Not a typical teenager at all. Not every second word is like and then cool and amazing. We have one of your Kay here has said, "Hey, Sister Queen, loving your interview. Can't wait to meet you in January, Miss North Dakota Earth."
I
So
can't wait to meet you too. I love the profile pic. Oh my gosh. It's
that
gorgeous.
is a
Your hair
stunning.
is stunning.
Absolutely. What are you most looking forward to coming up to the pageant? I mean, you've done the interview.
Yes.
So what's the most exciting part?
I'm just excited to see everyone in my like group of girls under my director. There's actually 13 of us in with the teen miss and misses. So there's a lot of us, and there's also girls that I already know in other titles. Like I already know New Mexico, I already know North Dakota. I've just met them before, so I'm really excited for it to bring us all together and have a week just to hang out. I feel like nationals is a time to have a bunch of fun, especially like I said with that interview out of the way. It's pretty much just on stage portion and just doing things throughout the week to hang out. There's a lot of optional things, and I'm going to all of them, like the gala or doing the Hot Works workout, just because I really want to get to know everyone. I don't have any sisters. I only have a twin brother. So I'm definitely the type of person to like try to leech on to people, be like, "You're my sister
But they don't get a choice.
now."
You're you just
I'm like,
grab
"We're
someone and
sisters now."
whether you like it or not. Was it a bit different doing, I assume this was the same for Earth USA last year, with the interviews doing them, I assume it's remote because the girls you weren't
Yes.
actually there. Was it different doing it via remote, like via a video call? Do you prefer it? Would you rather be in person?
I like that they get to be longer since they're over video.
Mm,
They span them over 3 days. So it gets to be a 5 minute interview rather than when I did
yeah.
Georgia Teen USA, they were 2.5 minutes,
Oh, wow.
which I mean, I remember I got 7 questions in both of my Georgia Teen USA, but you really have to cut those answers short. Whereas in the Earth interviews, each time I only got about 5 questions, but that's because they were very in depth and they're very
Yeah.
thoughtful questions. And you get the opportunity to have an interview that's more in depth and thoughtful when it's longer.
Yeah.
And I also got to pick my time, which was nice. I really could only do Sunday that weekend. And they were like, that's
Hmm.
fine. Like, whatever time
Oh,
works for you. So I ended up doing it Sunday evening. I was the second to last teen to go, but it was super nice. I got to drive home from my college and get ready here I'm at my parents' house right now. And it's just a lot more relaxing. It definitely is kind of stressful because they just give you a time slot because you can't guarantee that they're not going to, run over or run ahead. So
yeah.
like just log in at this time. And at some point between 7:30 and 8, I was getting pulled in. I kind of did the calculations, so I knew it'd be around like 7:45. But I decided to log in at 7 and I just sat there for 45 minutes waiting in front of my computer.
That sounds slightly nerve-wracking, just
Very much
sitting
is.
there waiting to be. I mean, you are verbose, as you said. When it comes to interview, is your biggest challenge, or was your biggest challenge, actually making your answers concise? Because I found that some people are petrified of interview, and their challenge is actually answering and saying something. Then there are
Mhm.
other weird people, such as myself, who love talking and just can't shut up. And then if it was a 5 minute interview, I'd be screwed because they'd ask me one question, I'd still be talking 10 minutes later. Was that your biggest challenge, actually making it concise?
Surprisingly enough, conciseness isn't really an issue for me. I'm someone who my brain works at a million miles per hour. And normally, when I'm speaking, I'm a few words already ahead in my head. So I already know when I'm wrapping it up where I want to go. The way I prep is with bullet points as well. I actually was lucky enough to have prepped every single question I got in my
Wow.
interview. Uh,
Yep.
I've been told with the girls I coach, I'm really good at guessing interview questions. And most of the time, I prep them with all the correct ones.
Hmm.
So I already had bullet points and things I knew I wanted to say. So once I got through them, I was able to just tie a little bow on it and be
Yeah.
done. So normally conciseness isn't really an issue for me. Like I said, I got 7 questions in on my winning Georgia Teen USA interview in two and a
Yeah.
half minutes, which sounds insane. But with the proper prep, it's actually not as hard as one would think.
Yeah. I can't believe that it's luck that you happen to prep the exact questions. There's maybe an innate talent here. So someone's watching this going, damn, like Isabella obviously knows what she's talking about. And you do coach. So
Yes.
what are the questions that you would recommend? Now that interview's over, you can tell your competitors, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
what are the main questions that you would prep for?
I actually had a Quizlet of about 40 questions. What I do is I just type in the questions and I don't put in any answers. But I had about 12 that had to do with environmentalism. I think since we're in environmental based pageant, it's important to know things like what environmental issue you believe is the most important, like what is impacting us the most. Obviously, you need to be able to talk about your platform, things like how do you reduce your carbon footprint. I had a bunch like that. And then I had a lot that had to do with me as a teen title holder if I were to win. The main thing that an organization normally cares about, especially with a teen title holder, is your ability to market, to promote, be relatable, authentic. You're very much kind of like a spokesperson for the
Yeah.
pageant because the Miss is going to Miss Earth. That's her huge priority. You are the fun teen who's doing a lot of the marketing and promotion. So a lot of the questions I prepared were about, how I would use social media to promote the platform, how as a teen title holder, how am I relatable? How am I authentic? What do I think it's most important about being a teen title holder, which I would talk about those things. Various stuff about proving myself as like I would be a good national title holder essentially. And I just think of every single way you could word those questions and I practiced them all. And one of them was actually strange. I, for some reason, put in what are 3 words to describe yourself, which I hate that question. I struggle with it a lot. I don't know why I put it in there. And as I was going through it, I was like, ooh, I was like, I don't have an answer for that. But I
Yeah.
was like, it's in here. So let me come up with an answer. I got asked that question in my interview. They asked me how my friends and family would describe me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that was fate or something telling me to prep that.
I think it's always good practice to practice the interview questions you don't like, because those are the
Yes.
ones that are going to trip you up. But on a related question, how do you practice? Because I know a lot of girls practice their interview, and what they will do is they'll pick up a question, they'll read it, and then they'll practice answering in their head or maybe out loud. Now, I think that's valid to a certain point, but the other thing is like you don't know what you're going to be asked most of the time, and you actually have to say, and as you said, like body language and things like that really come into effect. It's probably more important than what you say is how
Yes.
you say it and your body language. So how do you actually go about practicing your answers?
So I'm someone who actually believes that over preparation is just as harmful as under preparation.
Mm.
So if I know that I'm doing a pageant, so like I've had my teen Tennessee title since June. I tell myself that I'm going to be prepping for interviews slowly across all of those months instead of picking a certain time to cram. So, like, I had my Quizlet. I pretty much went through as many pageant questions as possible, filtered through what I consider fluff. When you're in a difficult pageant, they're going to ask you what your favorite color is. Like I picked all the hard hitting questions, all the ones that I still think could be those fluff ones, like what are 3 things to describe
Yeah.
yourself? Put them on a Quizlet. And pretty much just once a day or even just a few times a week, I'll go through every single one. I'll shuffle them in random order and I'll just answer it once. And from
Right.
there, I'll give the answer and I'll be like, what did I like about it? What did I not like about it? And what would I have changed? And then I don't think about that question for the rest of the day. Because that way, when you're doing the repetition, you are getting used to how you want to say things with your body
Yeah.
language. You can make little changes if you're doing it in front of a mirror, if you're recording yourself, but you are not scripting an answer.
Mm.
Because in all of my questions in my interview, I got to hit my little sayings that I love. I included a quote that I love. I included multiple of these little things that I knew I wanted to say, but none of my answers were identical to how I practiced them. And it helps have this raw and natural feeling, even though you prepped. And I think that's the most important way. It's a fine line between under prepping and over prepping.
Almost, I don't want to say it's acting because that would imply that you're being something you're not, but in a way, like you rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. But then each take, a great actor or actress, it will be slightly different because they'll put the emphasis somewhere else. They might improvise. And I know that one of the things that you want to do, I struggle to read your bio and then like, what is she doing now? Because you also Twitch, you streamed all these different things. But I know that acting is one thing that you really want to get into. So do you find that there's any sort of any commonalities between being able to deliver a line well and then also being able to interview well?
For sure, because, it's hard to describe the fact that I think when you do pageantry, you put on a version of yourself that is still yourself. Like nothing
Yeah.
about me is fake when I do pageants, but I'm absolutely more aware of, my body language, my face, the way I say things. Because when you're more relaxed and you're just chilling at home, like my voice even sounds different. My voice normally does not fluctuate as much as it does when I'm in pageants during interview. And it's just almost like a different vibe.
Mm.
When you are doing something like pageantry versus when I'm streaming or when I'm just hanging out with friends, it's different versions of yourself. It's all you, but it's almost like you're playing a different character. They're all you, you're all of them, but you're going to do different things depending on the situation. And while a lot of people would say that's fake, I think that is just adapting to your
Mhm.
situations and being just the best authentic version of yourself for what the situation calls for.
So going off of that, this and again, I watched. I think it was the most recent YouTube video you put on pageant advice, and I thought it was really interesting because you touched on the most common piece of advice which I see given, which is be yourself. And I've never really liked that advice. One, I say, well, you need to know yourself before you can be yourself, number one. And number two, it's like what you said. Well, there's so many different versions of yourself, right? There's the way you are in
Mhm.
pageant versus the way you're in front of your friends versus the way you are with your partner versus the way whenever. So when you say be yourself, it's like, well, which version am I going to be? The silly one, the intellectual one? So can you just give me your opinion on that age-old advice of just be yourself? Because I feel it has a place, but I feel it's also brought out a bit too much.
Yeah, because like you said, that means so many different things for an
Mhm.
individual. It's even like, even with my individual friends, I wouldn't act or say certain things
Yeah.
to one that I would to another. Like you just know with different people, with different situations, it calls for different parts of your personality. I would say I have a very serious part of my personality. I've always been told that I'm an old soul. But I also have, my gaming side, my more teen and bubbly side. So when I'm doing a teen pageant, of course, I'm going to draw from the bubbly side. Whereas if I'm in a situation that calls for a more serious attitude, that's going to take a back seat. So he said it's good advice as long as you elaborate on it
Yeah.
because it's not going to be the same. for everyone. Everyone has different versions of themselves, different parts of their personality that would be really
Yeah.
strong in one situation, whereas really weak or distracting in another. And it's just all about, being appropriate in the right situation. Just like, you
Yeah.
wouldn't be depressed at someone's wedding and you wouldn't be super happy at someone's funeral.
Funeral.
Like there's times and places for all the amazing parts of your personality. And just being able to navigate that, in my opinion, shows a sign of emotional maturity, which I think is
Mhm.
very important when you are in the position of being, a leader, a role model, or a mentor. I think that's
Mm.
something that is a great quality in someone.
Yeah. Emotional intelligence and just basic human empathy. Let's take a slight detour. I'm going to show everyone your Miss Earth USA video that's up on YouTube. We'll
Thank
watch it
you.
through. They'll still be able to see us, and then you'll be able to talk us through it. So here it is.
Tennessee Earth, Isabella Bloedorn. I'm a 19-year-old university student pursuing a degree in entertainment and media studies with a minor in Spanish. I've been a gifted student since the second grade and finished high school with a 4.4 GPA in all AP and honors classes. Because of this, I got into my university early action, as well as being awarded a full tuition academic scholarship. As a university student, I live a life of sisterhood and philanthropy not only through pageantry, but through my sorority, Alpha Phi. My sorority is a green chapter and I'm a part of our sustainability committee. Through my sorority, I've been able to work with organizations like ESP, Miracle, and raise money for women's heart health through the Alpha Phi Foundation. Not to mention cherishing what it means to be a part of a sisterhood every single day. While philanthropy of all kind has always been important to me, I also started my own platform inspired both by my concern for the environment and my personal health struggles. I was diagnosed with asthma at 3, and while many grow out of it, mine continue to become more and more severe. My platform, Earth's Lungs, spreads awareness about our air quality and how it affects both ours and the Earth's health. My platform holds a close place in my heart because of my personal struggle with lung health, and I hope to turn my platform into an official nonprofit organization one day. I've already begun venturing into the world of business with the creation of my pageant coaching brand, Isabella's Beauties. With my abilities in interview, branding, and social media being what originally drew me into competing in pageantry, I've already been able to be a part of so many girls' ventures towards their dream titles. When asked why the Earth organization, I can confidently say that this organization embodies everything I think modern pageantry should strive towards. It's the perfect blend of excitement, fun, and glamour that comes with being a title holder while also being a part of something bigger than yourself. Not only is the system dedicated to truly making an impact through their mission Beauties for a Cause, but it also is the most inclusive and accepting pageant I've ever had the privilege of being a part of. As pageantry continues to evolve, the Earth system has continued to prioritize caring for its title holders' well-beings while still meeting its goals. During my free time, I really enjoy being active and maintaining a fit and healthy lifestyle. I'm quite the gym fanatic, but my other hobbies include creating social media content, hanging out with friends, and writing. Not to mention my addiction to traveling. Whether it's with family, friends, or independently, I've traveled to 4 countries and 10 states this year, some on numerous occasions. I've also been able to pursue my passions of videography and editing through studying entertainment. These skills and passions allow me to express myself through my social media content, and I love being able to bring this skill set to my time as a title holder. Many see pursuing entertainment and digital arts as impractical, but one of my favorite quotes is always shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
I just want to get into the videography of it because I know that you're a keen videographer. You film and edit yourself. But just when you jumped out of the box, what and you gave that girl a hug, what was that? I've been meaning to ask you.
So in a sorority, you have something called a big and a little. They essentially, you go on these little dates. We call them Ivy links because our symbol in Alpha Phi is an ivy leaf. But essentially, as you get to know, so when you're a freshman, you get to know girls older than you, and one of them becomes your big. So I was the one running
Okay.
up to the box last year, and I got to meet my big, Michaela. Well, this year I'm a sophomore. So I actually went on a bunch of Ivy Link dates and I got my little, and she's the one who ran up to me. Her name is Fola. She was my bid day buddy. So she's who I was randomly paired with. On the first day, she found out she is an Alpha Phi. We hung out all day. I really loved her. And I just felt like we had an instant connection. So the secret is she totally knew I was in that box. Like I tried so hard to keep it a secret, but she knew. I had to get her all these baskets. I think I spent over $300 on like all these
Wow.
baskets for her. I loved her so
Okay.
much. I was like, my love language is acts of service and gift giving. So I was giving her all these things. It was totally not subtle because it was all her favorite things. I got it from her boyfriend. She's like, who else would know that? And I put her, we were in a little theme and it was Clueless because, you know, she looks a lot like one of the main characters from Clueless.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, but I was like, she'll look so cute in this. And that was our big little reveal. And I popped out pretending like she wasn't going to know it's me. And my big was recording us, but it was super cute. So I know I had to put it in my video.
How long were you waiting in that box for?
Oh my gosh, like 20 minutes.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, because it took forever for them to bring all the girls out because we're in a huge
Gosh.
sorority. There's 300 girls in my sorority.
Yeah.
And I'm really tall, or not really tall, I'm like 5'8", but I'm mostly legs. I have a 33-inch end seam. So I was just crouched in there dying because my legs were cramping. I was trying not to let the box move because I have such broad shoulders. Every time I moved, the box moved with me. It was
You're
rough.
lucky. You're lucky you didn't. I mean, with your asthma, you're lucky you didn't just pass out in there. And then
For
she comes
real.
up. No one popped out of the box, and there's
The
Isabella just
box
passed
just
out
tips
in it.
over.
And then you pour. Oh, that sounds terrible. I'm 6 foot. Like I'm 6'1", so the idea of having to crouch in a cardboard box for 20 minutes, that just is death to me.
It was
Um,
rough.
I can imagine. I sympathize. Well, I don't sympathize. I mean, you chose that life, so that's the way it goes. But the video, I know you love videography, and we've already touched on social media, and you seem to really love creating content for that. And I've watched your YouTube channel, and it's not just pageant stuff. There's a lot of other stuff in there. But videography, did you film that one yourself, the intro video, and did you edit it yourself?
So I did edit the intro video. It took me 15 hours straight to finish
Ooh.
editing it.
Mhm.
So that one was a lot, but I couldn't do all the videography because I had to be in it.
Yeah.
So what I wasn't able to film myself, my poor boyfriend, I essentially was directing him. So I would
Mhm.
take the camera. I would tell him where we were going to go. I had it all storyboard in my head. I would take the camera, show him exactly how I wanted it filmed, and then he would just film it for me because I had to be in the video. But so he had to deal with me essentially like being a director, telling him how to video, us doing like 12 shots of everything I had in my head to make sure we got a good one. And most of the clips in my intro video are slowed down because he's a little shaky. And I had to, that's the easiest way to make shaky footage look smooth is by reducing the speed by half. But we made it work. It took us about a week of filming because we went to so many different
Okay.
locations. And then I edited for 5 hours straight one day and then 12 hours the next day to finish it. I woke up at 8 a.m. and I finished it at 8 p.m. So it was a lot.
I've been in the editing. I've edited quite a few videos, and I know how long. Like people look at a 5 minute video, it's like, oh, how long did it take you to edit? Oh, maybe just an hour. But then you stay there the whole day. You realize you haven't eaten. You realize you're still in your pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you love editing? Because I mean, if you sat there for that long doing it, it seems to me like you must really love it.
Yes, editing's actually my just favorite thing in regards to entertainment. I actually got into videography because I needed things to edit. I was like, I
Mm,
can't edit if I don't have videos. And it's honestly one of the reasons I really don't post as much on my YouTube channel as I probably should because I'll film a video, I'll edit
yeah.
it, and then I'll just never post it because I just forget. I just really wanted to do the editing. Like, I just like having the video. I have a vlog that's completely finished from New York Fashion Week last year. Just never posted it. And it took me
Posting
like
is
10
it?
hours to edit.
Just drag it to YouTube, hit upload, put some random caption underneath, and that's done. It's not.
I know. I forget. And like sometimes it's
You
hard for
could.
me. I'll have a great idea and then I'll just sometimes not even want to do the videography. I'm like, I wish I could just edit it, but I I need the footage first. I did end up having to film most of my Think Global Act Local event though, because I had a friend who was gonna video it. He is a
Yeah.
videographer, and an emergency happened and he canceled on me 30 minutes before.
Oh, okay.
So my dad, though, has a video broadcasting degree and he was there with me. So me, him, my other friends just were playing like past the camera to get enough footage for my Think Global Act Local. So I did end up having to film a lot of that.
What's it like living in a house with you? Are you just that sort of person who's always videoing things? Like grab your camera and you film someone and they just have to do something? Is that what it's like?
It's more of I'll just come up with a video idea and I'll just take over somewhere in the house. Like I have too many ring lights. There's two in front of me right now. There's one in my car and there's another one somewhere. I have like four ring lights. A ton of them have like tripod stands. So most of the time
Mhm.
I'll take over the kitchen. It's my favorite place to film. But whenever I do my baking videos, it spans over like 3 days. A 15-minute video, I'll be recording for like 3 days straight. I own the kitchen. No one can cook because all my stuff is in there. And I'll have just three ring lights all around. One will have my phone filming for one angle, one will have my camera filming for the other angle. And my poor parents will like come in. So I have to be like, hold for sound. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to film. And they're like, sorry. Like they all know I'm interviewing right now. So my door's shut. And sometimes I'll hear them like knock to see if I'm still interviewing.
I mean, you do. I said you have the best looking backdrop. You also have you are the best lit interviewee that I've ever had. It looks like just full on like lights and action. I'm so glad you brought up the baking video because I do want to. So we've talked about showing different aspects of your personality, and I'm not going to show the whole thing because it's like 10 or 18 minutes long. But I want to show people a different side of you. So this
Back to
part
my
here,
channel for
right? And I just this is probably
this
not
was the
what-
New Year's Eve Bake Off I mentioned.
I didn't very clear who won today.
No.
I think I won this challenge. I think that was apparent before we started.
Not the manipulation.
I'm trash talking now because I'm the only cake left.
So,
This cake is phenomenal, dude.
let me not leave it on that shot there. Let's go. Okay. Was the cake really that good? I mean, look,
Yes.
I have to also ask you, right? Your I don't know who your friend is who made the this, and you put the Gordon Ramsay
Yes.
one over the top. I
His
have to
cake was
say,
disgusting.
one of your other friends said it looked like mold, and it's like that's exactly what I was thinking. It looked like what
Who's
plate?
this? I thought
Gordon
45
Ramsay.
minutes in the kitchen would come up with something a little bit more exciting than that. It looks like a dehydrated camel's turd. Cooked on the outside, raw on the inside.
Tampering.
Oh my god.
Can I just say I hope he never cooks for a living because that looked poisonous. What did he make? Because even when you had that confessional and he goes in to say what he's making, and I heard of it, that doesn't sound good. And then he made it and it looked worse. So so 2 questions. How was your cake? And number 2, is he still alive or did that cake kill him?
My cake was genuinely great. The point of these is I have been watching baking shows my entire life, but I don't bake. So it's always like a challenge where I have infinite baking knowledge. I pick a really hard design. So like that was a checkered cake. And I see if I can bake it having never attempted it like ever. And I did the same thing with my 6-layer rainbow unicorn cake. That was the first cake I ever baked, that video. This was the second cake I ever baked.
Well, here you go.
Oh my gosh, that's my mom that just said the unicorn cake was way better. It was better. The checker cake was hard, but it tasted really good. We ended up eating a lot of it and I wanted to save it, but I was actually going to Teen Earth the next day. So I couldn't save it. He picked angel food cake, which honestly is like the easiest cake to bake. You just add water to it, but he didn't bake it long enough, which we don't know why, because none of us were ready to bake yet. We're like, you can keep it in longer. But he insisted that it was meant to glisten. It wasn't. So it immediately started falling apart. His food dye he meant to make a black icing. He wanted like a galaxy looking thing. So it'd be black with those little pearls.
Oh.
But when you have like white frosting and you put in black food gel, it just comes out like a gray blue.
Yeah.
And he honestly just gave up. And that's why he was done so much earlier, because he just started slapping frosting on it. And he's like, I'm done. And I'm like, you can't even eat that.
Funniest part of that video, I did watch the whole thing because it was genuinely like I do research on my interviewees. That's probably the most fun I've had researching anyone. But the sound effects that you
was
put
my
on,
favorite
like when
part.
you're flipping the cake over and it makes a splat sound, splat, and then how long does it take you to get those sounds? Like where do you get them from?
So as I'm watching them, I just think like randomly I'll just be like, you know what would be a funny sound? And I just think of in my head, I just hear like a sound. And I'm like, that would be great. So I go into YouTube and I just start typing in words that sound like that sound and just listen to
Yeah.
videos until I find a good one. And then I just save the YouTube video and use the sound effect. So there were so many times where I was looking like wet squish sound or like splat sound. And I just have like at this point on my PC, I have just so many ambient sounds.
Yeah.
Just like different splats and squishes. I just have them now.
Where you know that I can't really do the sound, but that one that goes wow, and it's
The
like
anime wow. Yeah.
What is that one? Because I've heard that one all over the place.
It's just when you like, if you want to find it, you just have to look up anime wow. I don't actually know what anime it's from. I just know that it's an anime wow.
Yeah, no, I've just heard it. I've never seen the anime. I've just watched a lot of funny videos, and they use that sound effect all the time.
Yeah.
So your Google search history would have been interesting for that day. Wet, squishy,
Yeah.
splat sounds. Well, that's a different side of you. So you got the pageant coming up soon. Let's just quickly touch on Earth's lungs, because you mentioned the asthma. We saw it in the video again. And I think you said that you were diagnosed with it at 3. Now, I don't have asthma. My brother, when he was younger, he had quite bad asthma and sort of grew out of it, still a little bit there. But talk to us about Earth's lungs.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with asthma when I was 3, and we thought it was just cold induced. So I had an inhaler, and all my friends who had asthma when I was little started growing out of theirs, and I wasn't. It was getting worse, and they're like, "Oh, it's also sports induced. It's cold and sports induced." And I was like, "Okay." And then by 7th grade, I went to an asthma doctor, like an actual, to get some answers, like some in-depth answers. And they made me do this test. I had to breathe in it, all these different things. And they go, "So are you sick?" And I was like, "No." They're like, "Are you sure?" They're like, "Is this how you normally breathe?" I was like, "Yeah, like I actually feel like this is a pretty good day for my breathing. Like I feel fine." I'm like, "This is like an ideal breathing day for me." And they looked so concerned. And I was like, so they told me basically you have 2 bronchioles, your larger one and your small one. Ideally, they would all work at 100%, both of them, 90 to 100% ideal. Well, they told me that my large one works at 75% and my small one works at 32%. So together they make like 100%, but they're like, that is just really bad. They're like, I don't know how you're just going about your day. I was doing competition cheer at the time, which the thing about competition cheer, pretty much the whole aim of the game is to push your body to its limits in 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't know how you're functioning. And so they gave me a daily inhaler that I take that would ensure that they at least open up a little. I think if I took it, they'd both get to around 90%. And then from there, I also a breathing treatment I have to take every single time I'm sick. And I have to use them all in unison or they don't work. Like you have to use all of them. And I was so bad at taking my old one because I had to take it 2 times twice a day that when I was 17, they're like, "Look, here's this other one we have. We're not supposed to give it to people under 18 because it stunts growth." But they're like, "Your growth's already stunted because you've had them since you were 3. And it's so bad." They're like, "Just take this." And so now I have that inhaler. But I don't know. I just struggled so much with this that when I joined the Earth system and I was like, you know what, I do really want my own like environmental focus. I know they have Beauties for a Cause, but I'd love to find something that like I really want to focus on. And with COVID happening, a lot of people, so if you've had COVID, you have lung damage. It's just, it's one of those side effects that no matter how well you dealt with COVID, you do have lung damage. And lung damage is one of those things where you don't know it's an issue till it's like a really bad issue. I'm constantly keeping up with the scarring in my lungs, which surprisingly, I don't have a lot. With having asthma for 16 years, I actually have minimal scarring in my lungs. Because scarring in your lungs and scar tissue is something that you will be fine one day and in the hospital, your lung collapsing the next.
Okay.
So a lot of people aren't aware of that. And a lot of people aren't aware of the air quality. It's just not something that you have to think of on a daily basis, but I do. Every time I travel, I have to look into the air quality. I have to look into elevation. Like I said, every time I go to a pageant, I go days early so that my lungs can adapt to the air. And since it's something I'm constantly aware of, I realized that this platform of Earth's Lungs, talking about not only my lung health and my experience, but also our Earth's lungs, its air quality, our trees, I can focus on things that people are going to care about, like their health, while tying it to the environment. Because I do feel like the average individual honestly doesn't care about our environment until it's affecting them.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, ring ding, our air quality ties into so many issues like deforestation, climate change, our atmosphere. And it's also a huge concern for your health that you're not taking seriously. So not only does it tie into me, but I feel like it's a really effective way to bring awareness, because people are going to pay attention if it's not only affecting our Earth's health, but our health as well.
I had no idea. Asthma. I feel that most people, when they hear, "Oh, I have asthma," they just go, "Oh, but just take it easy, breathe deeply." I've never heard of the deeper, the more serious side of it. I mean, how did it feel when you? I mean, it can't feel good when you go to see a doctor of any kind, and they're like, "Are you okay? Like, are you sure you're not sick?" That can't have felt that great.
It's one of those things where, and I think about this a lot, is since I've had asthma since I was 3, I don't know what it's like to breathe normal. So I guess I don't really have anything to compare it to. And it was always frustrating when I was like in cheerleading. And sure, I was having an asthma attack after every single full out, but I was getting through it. I would just take my inhaler. I knew how many I could take a day. So I wouldn't take any of my rescue leading up to cheer. And I'm like, okay, I know that I can take one after every full out and be fine. And so it would always frustrate me when I was like working really hard. I was getting through it, building my endurance. And like someone else who wasn't tumbling nearly as much as me, wasn't stunning as much, was like, I can't breathe. I need to stop. And I'm like, I wish I had your lungs, girl. Like, please. And girls would try to like be like, oh, can I like have a hit of your inhaler? Because I can't breathe.
It's not a drug.
Yeah,
it's not a performance enhancing drug.
Yeah, I was like, it's specifically meant for my inflamed bronchioles to open up.
Yeah.
All it's going to do to someone who doesn't have asthma is make you extremely dizzy. And that's exactly what it would do when girls would just take my inhaler. They would just get dizzy. And I'm like, what did you think was going to happen? And now you just wasted one of my like medication puffs. And those things are like $50, my rescue inhalers.
Sounds like exactly what you need to do before cheerleading or tumbling is to get dizzy. That sounds like a really, just exactly what you need. I mean, we mentioned way back at the beginning the interview question that you hated, which was describe yourself in 3 words. Just given what you said, was one of your words resilient? Because I think that's because you're only 19. And I coached teenage girls tennis. And I have to say, there were some that were just so soft and so, always sitting down and I don't want to run. And just hearing what you just said, you sound pretty hardcore. So what were the 3 words that you chose to describe yourself?
So they didn't ask for 3 specifically, just like words that
your friends.
My friends described. But I did go for diligent and passionate, which I think tie into that resilient. I'm the type of person where once I have my sights set on something or I want to do something, I'm going to get it done. I hate the idea of like quitting or failing, which are all a part of life. Like you got to know your own boundaries, your own limits. But I'm really bad at I push my limits a lot. In cheerleading, I actually ended up hurting my spine my senior year. But they needed me. My cheer team needed me. So I competed in state in a soft back brace underneath my uniform. I had a soft back brace. I just wouldn't throw any of my tumbling till it was like on the flat, like on the floor, on the mat. It's time. Because I had my tumbling since like the 8th grade, so I wasn't worried about it. But yeah, I finished out my senior year with a disc bulging out of place in my spine. Thank God I didn't herniate it. That's great. And now I've been healing over the last 2 years. But I'm just someone who I will go as far as I can. I will do the most. Like I said, I even pushed myself so much with this Earth system, balancing college. I managed to get all A. I just finished class, all A's in all my classes, while at the same time I was traveling all the time. I mentioned that I went to like 10 different states, 4 different countries this year. Yep. I was traveling constantly, working on my videos, and I still managed to get all A's in my class. Just crazy. I didn't need to do that. I don't need to have all A's to keep my scholarship. but I'm just crazy like that. Very determined, diligent, passionate. Those are the words that I use for myself. Definitely don't know when to quit sometimes, but it's not a bad thing.
Well, I mean, you say crazy. I would say as a director, that's kind of exactly the sort of dedication and commitment you want. So I got to ask, like, if you're fortunate enough to have the crown placed on your head in 20 whatever days, I'm imagining it's going to be pretty full on, right? You're not going to be one of those girls who just gets a crown and then, oh, thanks, see you later. It's going to be a pretty manic year.
Once again, this is going to sound crazy, but so my full tuition scholarship is good for 10 years. So I've already talked to my advisor about how I would go about taking a gap semester or a gap year if I were to be crowned. Because I actually have a close friend who is the current UNM team. And she told me how she decided to take a gap year for her title. And it's honestly one of the best things she's ever done because it works with her with what she wants to do in college. And she's really been able to not only get the most that she can out of her year, but give the most that she can to the organization. Yeah. And that's definitely something that since I have the privilege to do it, I really would want to. You know, if I had the honor of being crowned Teen Earth, I really would want that whole year to be dedicated to doing as much as I can for it. Because I really feel like, I mentioned this in my intro video, I think that the Earth system, it really embodies everything that I think pageantry should be in the modern age. And I think it's crazy that more people don't know about the teen system. Like a lot of people know about Miss Earth, but I didn't even know that Earth had a teen division until a few years ago. It's just not something that a lot of girls know. And when I tell them, they're just like, I just didn't know. And are really interested once I tell them about it. So I would absolutely love being able to like dedicate a year to really trying to put the teen division on the map. It's, you know, with the craziness going on in the pageant world, this is totally the system people need to hop onto. I think there's no reason we shouldn't have every single state filled for the teen division.
Well, look, I mean, if you were lucky enough to win, I mean, obviously the commitment is there. You got the video skills, you got the social media. I mean, it would be a very enjoyable year to follow. Just before we move towards a close, when's the next baking video coming out?
Gosh, I love doing them with my friends as much as I like doing the one by myself. I ended up doing a second one by myself and it just wasn't as fun. I actually built a gingerbread mansion and that also never hit YouTube. It took me 4 days. It was a gingerbread mansion. It was 3 tall 2-story pieces as well as a garage. And so there was a 2-story, 3-section mansion with a garage. That never hit YouTube because honestly, I just enjoy making videos with my friends so much more. And I love editing my friends, like editing the guy who made the angel food cake, Dominic, was the most fun part of the video, editing his parts. So I don't know. It would have to be whenever he lives in Florida. So it's kind of whenever he comes into town that we're able to film stuff. But so I would just have to see.
I can't believe you have you just casually put together a gingerbread mansion over 4 days, filmed it, and it's not on YouTube. Other people would be just throwing that content up like there's no tomorrow. You're like, no, I have this one. I have this one. I have 5,000 videos here I haven't uploaded. So a little bit different there. Just before we move to the close, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Isabella, for supporting you along your journey?
I mean, I've seen some of the people in like the comments. I saw my mom in here. Yeah. I saw Ben in here, which that's my boyfriend. He's the one who helped me film all my videos. Literally, like anytime I was like, hey, I really need this done. Let's go. Like he would just come with me. There, you just put tree planter Isabella. He helps me with all my like community service events. I often struggle to find people my age, 19, that, you know, want to give up a weekend to do a community service event. He's a little older and he has a lot of friends who are into it. So that's a ton of help. Of course, my mom was in here. It's huge help. And really just doing Earth a second year was a crazy decision for me because I am 19. You know, I was in that weird moment where should I just transition to Miss? Yeah. And a lot of people tried to, you know, tell me that it was the best decision, that I should just jump to Miss. But I just still feel like a teenager. You know, I'm not in the proper mindset, I believe, to be a Miss yet. I feel like a teenager. I still like get along with all like the girls, even though I'm the second oldest at Teen Earth, you know, I feel like I've been getting along with all the younger girls and I get along with older girls too, but I just didn't want to, I don't know if I was ready to compete against girls who had these full-time jobs like PhDs, doctors, when, you know, I spend most of my days like you know, doing this pageant, but then also going to football games at UGA and hang out with my sorority, doing just fun teenage things. So, you know, a lot of people in the pageant world wanted me to just move up, but I really feel like my friends and my family were the ones who saw my point of view. Like, we support you, you know, if this is what you want to do, like, go for it, which, you know, I appreciate it a lot. Just, I think in society, there's such a pressure for young, like 18, 19-year-old teenage girls to be a woman, like, just instantly, you know, like, I just, you know, I haven't been out of high school that long. I've only been in college for a little over a year. You know, I still feel like a teenager. I don't, even though I have a lot more independence than I did and I do more adult things, I travel on my own. Obviously I'm still at like my parents' house right now. I hang out with them all the time. I still feel like a teenager, and I feel like I can give so much to a teen title. Whereas if I have a few more years, I think I would be a much better Miss then, because I competed at Teen USA at 15, and being one of the youngest people at pageant is really difficult. It is not easy at all. And there's not as big of a gap between like 15-year-old me and 19-year-old me versus who I think I'll be when I'm 24 versus who I am now.
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean, as I said, I think it's important to know yourself, and you certainly sound like you know that. And I've watched your Twitch streams, and I've seen the headset that you wear with the cat
My
ears.
cat
So
ears.
yeah, definitely still a teenager.
Yes,
I don't think
I'm
a
very
miscontest,
introspective for sure.
which is good, in balance. All right, let's move towards the final 10 questions. Always end the interview with the same 10 questions. These are random questions. So, number 1, what is your favorite word?
It would hard to pick one. Like I said, I'm very verbose. I just love really dramatic words. You know, like I said, I use Audacity a lot. I just feel like it hits different. I love saying things that people normally wouldn't, like blasphemy. I'll just say it in a normal conversation. It just throws people off guard. So I really love just finding, or I don't even know, like I couldn't define this word for you, but I use it a lot, indubitably. It sounds so weird when you're having a normal conversation with someone and you throw it in there.
Yeah.
And so I just love really dramatic words. It'd be hard to pick a favorite, but one of those.
Wow. Indubitably. It's been I don't think I've ever heard that word on an interview before. That's that's a new one. All right, question 2 then. What is your least favorite word?
It probably would have to be like, just because it was the hardest word to get out of my vocabulary. I still use like in casual conversation when brain is shut off and I'm just, it's like 2 a.m. brain is shut off. I definitely use it a lot. And there was a long time where like was like every other sentence. So having to get that out of my vocabulary, because it's so common, like in just teen lingo.
Yeah.
When you're especially like 14, 15, it's almost weird to not say it every other sentence. So having to get it out of my vocabulary was weird and annoying. So I definitely don't like that word.
Oh, when you listen back to interviews like I do when I'm editing, and you hear the like and the it really begins to grate after like the 50-second like in one sentence. So yeah, I can understand that. Question 3, in life, what gets you excited, or what turns you on?
I really like just having some sort of goal I'm striving for. I think it's one of the main things that had me decide I was going to do Teen Earth again. I'm not going to lie. I got home from nationals and, you know, I didn't win. And I was like, dang it. I'm like, what am I going to do for the next like 6 months? I'm like, I don't like, what am I striving for? And I realized then, I was like, wow, I didn't realize how much I rely on being goal orientated. So I'm definitely someone who, it doesn't matter what the goal is, but I need to have something I'm striving for to be able to be like excited and hyped up every single day. Because then if I don't know what to do, if I'm bored, I'm just be like, oh, well, I'm going to do something to get towards that.
Yep. That certainly sounds in character for you. So that was what turns you on. What about what turns you off?
That's a good question. I wouldn't say there's like a lot of things in life that completely kill my mood. I'm someone who, I will say, I am an introvert. And while I've gotten a lot more extroverted thanks to pageantry, I'm someone where once my social battery is like donezo for the day, if you force me to like go out to a social gathering, I'm not having a good time. Like
Yeah.
I will put on a smile and I'll make sure I'm not like in a bad mood or like putting anyone else in a bad mood, but I'm not having a good time. Huge social gatherings, not my thing. Like if I'm just, my ideal weekend is just like chilling with either close friends or playing video games. Like,
Never would have guessed that you were an introvert. I mean that sincerely. I'm not being sarcastic.
yeah,
You're an introvert?
very, very much so.
Are you one of those like what they call ambiverts or situational introvert? Like, because obviously you have to be able to turn it on for a pageant. You can't go to a pageant, sit there by yourself looking miserable. So was that something that you just had to get used to as like building a muscle?
Yeah, I think it's more of just adapting. I don't think I've changed. I'm definitely an introvert, and it's from being a twin. I never had to worry about like making friends and going to big gatherings as a kid because I just had my twin brother across the hall. And I think that's what made me an introvert. And I've definitely got used to like, even if my social battery's low, you know, I can make myself have a good time. I can look at the bright side and still, you know, function in a social setting. But I'm almost always going to prefer just being like by myself, chilling over, you know, a huge group of people. Normally, honestly, no matter how much I like the people, more than 10 people, I'm going to get overwhelmed. Like even at pageants, being around like a bunch of girls I love, I get overwhelmed easily. Like one of my funniest stories that one of my friends from last year remembers, and she's competing again with me, is we had three dressing rooms as teens. Every single person was in one of them, every single one. And I was like, if I'm in that room, I'm gonna like have a panic attack. So for 2 hours, I sat backstage in my own room, just chilling by myself, getting in the right mental state before we competed. And like my friend just went in there and she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, there's just a lot. I need to decompress right now.
Is because I relate to you a lot on this because I'm obviously do a lot of these interviews and I think people think that means you're extroverted. But just off a bit of a tangent, you love the videoing and telling the story so much. Do you feel like that's a way of expressing yourself? Because I feel like being an introvert myself, the social battery thing is a huge issue. So when I don't want to go out, I won't let myself go out because I don't want to kill anyone else's mood. But I love being able to tell stories through like video and funny videos, especially when you can make people laugh. Do you feel like that's a really way of getting the like communicating or expressing your feelings?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For some reason, just over social media, my battery drains significantly like slower. You know, there's been times that I've streamed on Twitch for 15 hours straight. It's something where you get a lot of fun social interaction. I like to think I'm a witty person. I really like entertaining people. I love when people say that I'm funny, but sometimes just the pressure of being in person just drains me too much. I'm someone who, this is just a weird tangent real quick. I'm a very logical person. I'm not very emotional. And so sometimes I struggle reading other people. So whenever I'm having a conversation in person, I am reading someone's face, their body language, everything. I'm just the type of person where if we're having a conversation, I want to make sure I read you right. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. I am a control freak. I'm like, I want this conversation to go amazingly. And that just is mentally draining, you know? Whereas when I'm on social media and I'm just expressing myself, you're just watching my content or appreciating my content, there's less of the worry because I'm just such a people pleaser. I want every interaction with me, you to go away being like, that was amazing. And for you to leave being like, that was spectacular, amazing. You know, I'm putting in a lot of effort for that.
Wow. Okay. That's an insight. I never would have guessed you were an introvert. When some people tell me that, they're like, I can see that. But with you, no, I never would have seen that. And I'm pretty good at reading people. So that's a surprise. So whatever work you've done, you've done it really well to be able to be this verbose and bubbly and this public facing. Let's move on. So the next question I was going to ask you is number 5. What sound or noise do you love?
I'm someone who's actually pretty into ASMR, which is so strange, but I just can really appreciate a good beat. When people ask me like my music taste, I don't necessarily have one. It's just there's certain beats I like. And if it hits correctly, it's like something in my brain immediately sets off like serotonin, like just instantly. And so like my favorite artists are like 21 Pilots and Panic at the Disco. That mix between like pop and like alternative just scratches my brain perfectly. And so just I can't even describe it, but the beats in those songs are great. A perfect beat will just instantly lift my mood, no matter like how sad or upset I am.
It's, again, really interesting you say that, only because of the video editing, because the sound design that goes into some movies and some trailers, there's one, it's not a beat, but there's a particular bass sound. And I think Hans Zimmerman created in Inception, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and it's just this really big bass sound. When you hear it in the cinema, the whole building shakes, and now everyone is using that. And it does trigger something in the brain. I don't know, he was talking about it. It was fascinating.
Also, I don't love super loud sounds. I have sensory issues, and a sudden loud sound actually like kind of sets off a like fight or flight for me. Like train horns. If a train comes out of nowhere, I'll just like tense immediately. It's so bad. I'm like that kid who has to plug their ears when like the fire alarm goes off.
Why do you play horror games with headphones on, which literally is loud noise from behind you when you're least expecting it? You would run out of the room.
You know, sometimes you got to make sacrifices for entertainment.
The things we do for our fans. All right, so what sound or noise do you hate then? Well, horror games. But
yeah, it would have to be like just those loud, unpleasant noises. They set me off. It's something where just like the right sound can bring me in a great mood, a really loud sound out of nowhere just tanks my mood. And like I become so frazzled. I actually happen to, in my college town, live by a fire station. And for some reason, my college town has the loudest fire trucks in existence. And anytime I'm with my boyfriend and like he'll notice one is coming, if I'm like zoned out, he'll literally be like, plug your ears. Because he knows that it'll make me upset.
The noise cancelling headphones, just whack these on. Question 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I've always stood by the fact that telekinesis is the coolest superpower. And if you say otherwise, I think you're wrong. Just because, you know, one, you can easily hide it from everyone. You know, I'm thinking realistically here. If you have a superpower and anyone finds out, the government is taking you. You know, like I'm a full believer in like you're being tested. And telekinesis is something that can help you out so much on a daily basis. And no one has to know. Like, how are they going to prove that you moved that with your mind? It's so insane. But it would be so helpful. Like, if I didn't have to like touch anything and I can just do infinite things with my mind all at once, like cleaning your room would be so much faster. Writing or typing anything, like it would just make life so much easier. And multitasking would be insane because I could be working out and typing an essay at the same time because I could just use my telekinesis. And you can use it for greater good without anyone noticing. Like if something was falling, you know, you can stop it and hit it to the side. People are going to, if it gets on video, people are going to think it's insane, but they're just going to say it's a part of the simulation. You know, they're not going to say that someone has superpowers. It'll just become a different conspiracy theory and you'll have saved a life without, you know, being discovered.
How much thought have you given that?
A lot. I thought about for years.
You've got a whole thesis there, like why telekinesis is the best superpower. I don't think anyone's actually ever mentioned telekinesis. Flying is the most typical one.
But so how would you use that without being caught? That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, telekinesis, I mean, you could also move yourself. So telekinesis actually subsumes, if that's a word, flight. You could make yourself fly. So I do like reading minds, though. So
that would be cool.
Anyway, you gave that a lot of thought. Let's move on. Question 8. What job or occupation, well, other than your own, I normally ask, you're a teenager, obviously, but what job or occupation would you most like to attempt?
I want to be an author, which I mentioned I am writing a book right now. I decided my dream job was an author in like 6th grade. It was something that in general I was good at just because of my education background. But creative writing, it just doesn't, you know, it didn't come to me naturally. Yeah. And it really hasn't been till like this year that I felt confident enough in my writing that I could actually publish a book. So it's definitely taken like the back burner of all my dream jobs. You know, I'm prioritizing modeling and acting for sure. But I specifically have this one book that I've been working on since freshman year of high school, I believe. So we're like on 4 years of working on it now. Because it's a fantasy book. So like the entire world has been created by me, all the characters, it's gone through insane development. But I'm currently 3 chapters into like the final product. I'm hoping for it to be about 40 chapters. I want it to be like a thick book because it's, you know, it's fantasy set in like a medieval type, you know, time period, but with magic.
Yep.
And having to create like a whole magic system. I'm a big stickler of plot holes and like rules. If you have a magic system, I expect you to follow the rules of your own magic system. You're not going to put your characters in some deadly situation to be like, oh, here's this rule that you didn't know about, but it exists now and it saves them. Like really, I believe in foreshadowing. So it's so difficult for me to write because I'm like taking something that's going to benefit them in chapter 17 and I'm putting it in chapter 2 and like alluding to it so that when you get there, you'll be like, oh yeah. Because that's my favorite thing in writing.
Absolutely exhausting because it's like putting together a tapestry. You couldn't just write it quickly because page 582 is referenced early on in page 2, and then you want to go back to like finding Easter eggs in movies.
Oh, there's so many times where I'll be writing and I'll realize I want to change something, but to change that, I have to change something else in an earlier chapter. So I have to go back, find that exact moment I'm thinking of and change it.
Okay, I'll stick to writing nonfiction. That's much easier. Your mum has chipped in with a helpful comment here.
Oh gosh, I have really small ears, so no headphones stay in. So I've just been fiddling them the whole time. I have like special tiny wireless headphones, but they don't connect to my computer.
Now, question 9. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I'm at the point where I'm so enthralled with entertainment that I can't see myself working in anything outside of it. I feel like when you get a taste of what you're really passionate about, there's no going back. For so long, you know, with my education background, being gifted and the plan like me and my mom had for me to go to an Ivy League school, it was so hard for me to then, you know, see this plan and essentially abandon it. Because for me going to entertainment, you know, the best course of action is just using this full tuition scholarship I have, staying in Georgia and pursuing it, which is not, you know, not quote unquote using my intelligence to its maximum potential. But I realized like that's not what I want. And if I'm not gonna enjoy pursuing these careers, like odds are I'm just gonna burn out. And then I'll never end up pursuing it and then regret not pursuing entertainment earlier. Because ultimately, if that's what you're passionate about, that's where you're gonna end up.
Yeah.
So I can't, you know, there's multiple aspects of entertainment I'd be willing to work in, you know, videography, editing, acting, modeling, but I just can't at this point see myself working in anything that doesn't even touch on it. I think the farthest I would go is like marketing, because then, you know, you're playing with like social media and video and stuff for companies, but I just can't see myself working far past that.
It's good that you find out what you're passionate about at such a young age, because a lot of people a lot older who still haven't found what really floats their boat, and that's a sad thing. Final question: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Oh gosh, I'm someone who like just recently has started to get like a little spiritual, believing in fate and stuff. So I don't know. I just think I'd be happy if it was like just real. I'm someone who, since I think so much and spend so much time alone with my thoughts, I do think about that. I'm like, what if I just cease to exist? And then I go into an existential crisis. So I think I'd just be happy for him to be like, hey, guess what? It's real. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God. So I have something to do.
I just have this picture of you sitting there suddenly panicking because you're having an existential crisis. No one from the outside would know what's going on, but you'd suddenly be panicking. It sounds like it'd be an interesting place to live in your head, just for a day, to see what it's like.
stressful. I don't think you'd want to.
It sounds overwhelming, but
It is.
give in.
I found it weird. I didn't realize most people only have one inner monologue. I have like 5. And I didn't know that was abnormal, that like I have like 5 different inner monologues going off at the same time, normally, between 3 to 5.
I can't tell if I have multiple inner monologues, or the inner monologues are talking to one another, or the inner monologue is just going really quickly.
I
can't
can tell
tell.
at this point they do different things. Like I'm normally always playing a song in the back of my head. One's focused on what I'm actually doing. One's focused on what I want to be doing. And I often will find myself thinking about things in the back of my head without even realizing. I'll just be chilling. I thought I was thinking of nothing. And then I'll catch myself mid-thought over the most random things. And my brain was just thinking by itself. And I'm like, okay. But no, it's stressful. Like when I'm taking a test, all like 4 will be going off at once. And I have to like hone in on the correct one. And I thought that was normal. I thought everyone thought at that level, at that intensity. But no, apparently a lot of people just have their one thought process. And I'm like, not me. I'm thinking of, like I said, if we're having a conversation, I'm thinking of 3 different pathways that we could potentially go from here and where I would go from there, which I think also helps with me being an interview. But that's unfortunately not something I can teach people because that's just how my brain works.
Have you ever tried meditation?
No.
I don't think it would go so well.
I don't know if that would work.
Somehow you'd be sitting there and just like panicking and being really bored. I tried it, and I have to say it was very, very challenging. But a lot of very successful people swear by it. So that might be a YouTube video for you. You might try meditation and see how that goes. But look, let's leave it there for now. We've been on for a minute. Thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck at the pageant.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I will keep you on the line for just a minute whilst I hang up with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live on the replay, and we'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.